Hello and welcome to Sports Fan Entertainment, here to discuss a rumor that has percolating the Tennessee Titans fan base over about the last 24 hours, and that is Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Matt Nagy, former Chicago Bears head coach, former Chiefs offensive coordinator, is considered a prime candidate, at least a prime outside candidate, to be the Tennessee Titans' next offensive coordinator. I kind of wanted to also just discuss this offensive coordinator search overall and how it's developing, if it is developing, also, which is kind of interesting because it's kind of not. I mean, right now, like this week, we haven't really heard anything outside of this. But of the four names we've heard, Charles London, the Atlanta Falcons quarterback coach, Matt Nagy, the Chiefs quarterback coach, Eric Bieniemy, the Chiefs offensive coordinator, and Tim Kelly, the Titans passing game coordinator, we haven't heard any other names in like 12 days. I mean, January 15 is when we got the list of really those 4 days. I think that's when Josina Anderson, or maybe someone else, came in and said that we were requesting to interview Bieniemy and Nagy. Since then, I mean, you're not hearing anything about us interviewing anyone, adding anyone else to this list, internal, external. Our tight end coach just got interviewed, I want to say, by the Chargers. We didn't interview him as far as we know. So what is going on with this offensive coordinator search? Now, it's not that big of a rush. I think 2 or 3 teams now have assigned their new offensive coordinators. The Rams, they just got Michael Ford, former Jets offensive coordinator. And there's another team, and I think the Jets might have also decided today, or at least they're becoming very close to. But I think there's other, like, maybe 6 or 7 other teams that are still looking for offense coordinators. So we're not alone when it comes to this. You know, teams are doing their due diligence. But I remember also seeing a tweet, I want to say it was yesterday, saying that it was the Colts, I want to say. Actually, it wasn't the Colts. Who was it? It was the Jets. That the Jets had interviewed 15 candidates for they actually just hired Nathaniel Hackett. They just remembered they had interviewed 15 candidates for their offensive coordinator position before they finally decided on Nathaniel Hackett. And by the way, that's crazy to me. I mean, you know how good of a salesman Nathaniel Hackett must be? I mean, this guy must be one hell of a salesman. If I ever need to sell my house, if I ever need to sell my car, I am calling Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, this guy will get you through anything. You need a divorce lawyer? You better call not Saul Goodman. You better call Nathaniel Hackett. This guy knows how to get away with anything. After how horrible the Denver Broncos offense was this season, and he was at fault for a lot of it, he has an offensive coordinator position. This is absurd to me. Wow, this guy must be a great interviewer. 15 candidates. So they interviewed 15. And as far as we know, we've interviewed 4. We only have heard of 4 candidates. And I'm not really in love with any of them except for Bieniemy would be very interesting. The only problem with Bieniemy is if he comes here and he has success, and that's what we're assuming, right? That's what we're hoping he'd do, then he would finally get hired somewhere else. Finally. He would finally, get that position because, the only thing that's holding it back is that teams believe that it's all Andy Reid, that it's mostly Andy Reid, and they won't hire Bieniemy, even though they're fine hiring Sirianni, even though they're fine hiring Doug Peterson, even though they're fine hiring, Nagy, they're not fine hiring Bieniemy. Take from that what you will. That's just the way that it is. So, interesting. But as far as we're concerned with Matt Nagy, how do I feel about Matt Nagy as a candidate, as a prospective offensive coordinator for this team? I don't love it, but I also don't completely hate it. But let's keep it a $150. He was terrible commanding the offense for the Chicago Bears. Terrible. He was a play caller for the Chicago Bears, and ultimately, what do we want in Tennessee? We want better schemes, but we also need and want a better play caller. And as of right now, he has not shown himself to be even a competent, let alone good, play caller in the National Football League. We haven't seen it. Now, the arguments that you could make is that the Chicago Bears roster from 2018 through 2021 wasn't that good. And I would say, you know what? That's a decent argument. You're talking about Mitchell Trubisky at quarterback for most of that most of that stint. You're talking about Nick Foles for about half of a year. You're talking about Justin Fields for about half of a year. So I understand that argument. But he was the head coach. And while he's not going to come in here and make any personnel decisions, he's the one that had a lot of input in that roster. I mean, him and Ryan Poles, whoever the GM is, or was, I think he got fired. So after seeing that and knowing, look, he wanted a lot of these players. I mean, he was telling the GM, this is my scheme. These are the type of players that I want. He was influential in the decision to trade up for Justin Fields. He didn't know how to use Justin Fields. Justin Fields' potential is finally being unlocked this season. Now, he's still not great, but finally you saw that, dude, Justin Fields, either he almost did or he actually did break the rushing quarterback record. He had over 1,100 yards rushing. Wow. He did anywhere close to that. Matt Nagy had 490. Now, I don't love that. I'm not saying I need him to come in here and, make Malik Willis run for over 1,000 yards. I don't know how long that would last. But I mean, you have problems with that. If he couldn't work with Fields, how's he going to work with Malik Willis potentially? And look, again, I'm not putting Malik Willis in my long-term plans anyway. But I'm just saying if that's the case, if that's still a possibility, you'd want to see more there. And, in terms of Trubisky, I mean, he got a lot out of Trubisky his first year, 2018. They went 12-4. Trubisky made the Pro Bowl, had, I want to say, 24 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, by far his best season in the NFL. And since Trubisky has left Nagy, he hasn't done anything. It was a backup for the Bills, didn't play. Finally got to see him in extensive duty with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he was the worst he ever looked. So I will give you that. I will give you that Mr. Trubisky had looked worse this year. And now his sixth season, was it 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. In his sixth season, Mitchell Trubisky looked the worst he ever looked. Okay? And that was without Matt Nagy. So I'll give you that. The running game, David Montgomery looked about the same to me this season. But Khalil Herbert looked better. He looked better with, this offensive staff in Chicago now with Luke Getsy than he looked under Matt Nagy. He looked better, he looked more explosive. Montgomery looked about the same. Darnell Mooney completely fell off. I don't know what happened with him. And the Bears just started taking over as a team. So there's not too much you can take away from that. But again, when you look at Fields and his improvement, that's the one thing, because the quarterback, if he's supposed to be a quarterback whisperer, a quarterback coach, right? The argument, or one of the arguments for him, is that, hey, he was the quarterback coach for the Chiefs initially, I want to say from 2013 through 2016. And that's when they acquired, or just shortly after they acquired Alex Smith. And then, they were able to, actually, they acquired him, I guess, like in the middle of that. I guess they'd be after 20. No, actually, maybe they acquired him in 2013, actually. Yeah, they should have acquired him in 2013, and then that's when Nagy was a quarterback coach. And then you saw him help Alex Smith as well with the assistance of not only Andy Reid, but offensive coordinator Doug Peterson. I mean, there's layers to this. They had Reid, they had Peterson as offensive coordinator, and then Matt Nagy was a quarterback coach. So who exactly gets the, everyone gets, some sort of share of the credit, but he had Peterson and Reid. Okay, and Peterson's killing it now in Jacksonville, and I thought they should have never let it go with the Eagles. Now, Sirianni's come in and done a good job anyway, so I'm not really sure if it's going to end up mattering. But, wow, why did the Eagles get all the good coaches, man? They had Reid, they let him go. They had Peterson, won a Super Bowl, they let him go. Now they're going to have Sirianni, might make a Super Bowl, might win a Super Bowl, and guess what? Down the road, they might let him go, and then you go pick him up, apparently. That's the move. So remember that 5 years from now, because they just overreact in Philly. They're crazy. But anyway, so he has had great coaches around him. But the one thing is, if he's had all these great coaches around him, if he's been under Peterson and Reid, I don't understand why they haven't rubbed off on him more. Because make no doubt about it, even the Bears, when they went 12-4, they went 8-8, they went 8-8, they went 6-11 under him. That's like a total record that's above 500. But all of those teams were defensive teams. Like, all of those teams had a better defense than they had an offense. All those teams were anchored by the defense. Make no doubt about it. Vic Fangio was there for a good stint. And then after that, I think it was, Chuck Pagano before he retired. So a lot of those defenses were strong. They were able to rely on their run game a little bit. The passing offense was never particularly prolific. So again, now the question that you might ask, well, so let's say we surround Nagy with more talent. Would you be able to see him do, more here with better talent? There's a potential for that. I just don't buy it. I mean, I just think he would have got more out of the Bears, and then the Chiefs haven't really missed him. And then again, if you're looking to run the Chiefs system, their scheme, it really isn't talent dependent, especially now. Especially now, it's not talent dependent, you know. And while I like the idea, and I actually do really like the idea of moving away from our scheme and trying different things, I'm also, we're not compatible right now with that roster wise. Because really, what that scheme, it doesn't require even use a Derrick Henry. Now, I'm not saying that we need to include Derrick Henry in our long term plans, because even though I love King Henry, long live the king, I understand by about 2 years from now, yeah, he's no longer going to be the focal point of this offense. Maybe even as early as next year. Maybe. I think this year, 2023, I think he's still the focal point of our offense. But 2024, 25, 26, will he even be on the team? We don't know. So I'm fine the idea of moving away from Henry and then moving more towards a scheme like the Chiefs, to where, look, you can have Pacheco in there, you can have Clyde Edwards-Helaire in there, you can have Jerick McKinnon in there, you can have the amalgam of running backs that they've had in years past, Damian Williams, or I think they also had a Darrell Williams. They could have all these guys that come in there and just serviceable enough in the run game, and it's fine. The Shady McCoy a little bit in there. Look at the Eagles now. They use Miles Sanders. They use Kenneth Gainwell. They use their amalgam of running backs that they have. Doug Peterson now uses ETN, was using the other running back. They had Robinson before they traded him to the New York Jets. It doesn't really rely on a bell cow running back that we have right now. But the passing additions, the passing addition to the scheme, the passing specifics of the scheme, that would be interesting, and we definitely could use some of that at Tennessee. So I am mixed when it comes to that, but I'm open to that. But Nagy himself, I don't love it. But if you look at the four names, I mean, Charles London, this quarterback coach out of Atlanta, I don't know why. First of all, I don't know why he's a quarterback coach now. He used to be a running back coach. He was a running back coach when Mike Vrabel was a linebacker coach for the Texans, so they know each other well. I don't know what this guy's philosophy is when it comes to his offensive thoughts process. His overall offensive even philosophies, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to come in here and just ask if we're going to, look, let me tell you this right now. If we're going to run the Falcons offense that they ran this year, I don't want it. Because while they had great success in the run game, the passing offense was so non-existent, it was pathetic. I mean, seriously. And I know Mariota is basically kind of shot, but I still think they could have threw the ball more than they did. It was pathetic at times. They had really no interest in throwing the ball downfield, despite having an immense talent like Kyle Pitts, despite having an immense talent like Drake London, despite having a decent weapon in Olamide Zacchaeus. They just didn't have an interest. They had Cordell Patterson you could use in the receiving. They just didn't have, let's just run the ball. Algier, Patterson, Algier, Mariota, Algier, Patterson. Again and again and again. I don't want to run. If we're running that next year, forget about it. Boring. I don't want to be the Atlanta Falcons next year. That'd be the most, look, at least 7-10. We had some high highs, 7-3, and then everything just crashed and burned, and we saw it crash and burn. And I'd rather do that than be this mediocre, running the ball 40 times a game. Tannehill having his worst passing season, maybe even Willis in there running around, just running around. I have no interest in that. If that's what Charles London is bringing, I don't want him. So, look, Bieniemy is number one, although he would leave after 1 year. I think that then who is it? It's Nagy, it's Bieniemy, and then who was the other? Tim Kelly. Tim Kelly, former offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans, did well his first year. Second year, not so well. The team overall just tanked as well as Bill O'Brien's tenure came to an end very briefly and abruptly. And then 2021 did better than the Texans did in 2022. But that's basically all I can say in terms of how well he did. So these are not great candidates. And I really want Vrabel, if he's not already doing this, and again, we don't know everything. I think he needs to stretch out a little bit. I think he needs to expand his coaching, to expand his wings, because I mean, if these are the only four guys that we're talking to, I mean, how are we supposed to get excited about this? I mean, he needs to tap into the McVay, Shanahan pipeline and see what's going on over there. He needs to tap into more pipelines. I'm not impressed by what I'm seeing right now. So if it's Matt Nagy, look, we're going to discuss it if it ever becomes official. I would be okay with it, but I wouldn't be over the moon. And we just see what's going to happen. If it's Tim Kelly, who's the internal candidate, fine. I mean, I feel like I'm just going to be fine. I don't think I'm going to hate it. The only one I would probably hate would be London, but I'd have to see what he says. I want to know what he says. I want to know what they're planning here and what they're trying to do when it comes to this team moving forward. We're going to see. But Matt Nagy right now, that's the prime candidate. If we hire an outside guy, not too impressed. So that's going to do it for me here on Sports Fan Entertainment. What are your thoughts on Matt Nagy potentially being the next offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans? Let me know. Comment down below. Until next time, I'm out. See you all later.